All right, so today we're gonna do a deep dive
Yep.
on pasted text,
Mm.
and it's an excerpt.
Okay.
So it's fiction,
Right.
but it's really a powerful piece about two sisters,
Okay.
and revenge and
Interesting.
some really seriously messed up family dynamics. It's like
Mhm.
we're only getting this little snippet of their story, this little snapshot of a much bigger, darker picture.
Yeah, and it is quite a snapshot.
Oh yeah,
Even in just this little piece, the author manages to create this story that is so captivating, but it's also unsettling.
right?
There's just so many themes of betrayal and manipulation and
Oh yeah,
just the complications of family
yeah,
relationships. And it really reminds us that even simple stories like this
yeah.
can have so much more meaning underneath.
Yeah, and right from that first line,
Uh-huh.
my sister has always had a soft heart,
Yeah.
soft as sweetbread.
Hmm.
We're hooked. But it's that sweetbread comparison that I find
Yeah.
so interesting. What do you think as an expert?
Well,
What do you think the author is trying to get at
So,
with
yeah.
that unusual description?
It's brilliant. I mean,
Yeah.
on the surface, sweetbread, you think of innocence. You think of some delicate, something pure.
Right,
But then when you think about what sweetbread actually is,
right,
it's a delicacy that comes from the organs of an animal.
right.
So there's this underlying darkness.
Yeah.
It's like this subtle foreshadowing of the violence that's coming.
And the violence is there.
Yeah.
Right away, we find out the sisters are covered in soot, one with burned fingers.
Yeah.
They've clearly been through something really traumatic,
Well,
even
certainly.
before the story starts.
Yeah.
Then we're thrown right into their escape from this witch's cottage.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
notice how their roles seem to shift during the escape.
Oh, absolutely.
The sister that was described as having the soft heart,
Right.
she's the one that's taking charge now.
Yeah.
She moves through the woods like she's not just running away.
Yeah.
Like she has a plan.
Yeah.
It's almost as if all this trauma has awoken this strength in her
Right.
that was laying dormant before.
And it's interesting, too, how she makes a point of grabbing potions as they leave.
Yeah.
It's like she's taking back some of the control,
Right.
arming herself with the very things that were used against her.
Yeah,
Their trip home is just as captivating,
absolutely.
don't you think?
The tension is so thick you can cut it with a knife.
Yeah.
The father's guilt is obvious.
Right.
The stepmother is conveniently sick.
Right.
This excerpt really captures that feeling of a family that is just about to implode.
Right.
Going home is not the solution. It's the start of a whole new problem.
It's like that simmering pot analogy.
Oh, yeah.
But in this case, it feels like that pot's about to boil over
Yeah.
and scald everyone in its path.
Right.
What did you make of the sisters' reactions once they get back home?
Well, their anger,
Yeah.
it's palpable,
Right.
but it comes out in such different ways. One of them is burning with rage,
Uh-huh.
while the other one has this chilling coldness about her.
Right.
It really makes you wonder if their personalities are going to shape what happens next.
Right.
And it highlights that trauma can really affect people differently,
Right.
even those who experience it together.
And then comes the climax of this excerpt.
Yeah.
The poisoning.
Mm.
The sister uses a witch's potion disguised as sweetbread
Mm.
to poison her stepmother and father.
Wow.
It's a chilling scene.
Yeah.
And that sweetbread imagery comes back with a vengeance.
Right.
What are your thoughts on this, especially when we consider what we talked about earlier with the meaning of sweetbread?
It's such a masterfully crafted scene.
Uh-huh.
It's full of symbolism and irony.
Yeah.
Remember how we talked about how sweetbread has this dual nature,
Right.
the innocence and the hidden darkness?
Right.
Well, here it's on full display.
Yeah.
She takes this symbol of comfort and care,
Yeah.
something that they were obviously deprived of,
Yeah.
and turns it into a weapon
Right.
of revenge.
It's almost like she's saying, this is what you gave me.
Right.
This is what you turned me into.
Yeah.
And that chilling coldness we talked about before.
Right.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's on full display here.
It is.
But it's not just about the act itself.
No.
It's about the deliberation, the control she has.
Yeah, she's not just reacting.
Right.
There's this chilling precision to what she does.
Right.
It makes you wonder about her mental state.
Yeah.
Is this just an act of survival, or is it something more calculated, something much colder?
What about the final lines of the excerpt?
Yeah.
The sister's promise to protect her sibling, delivered with that chilling coldness.
Right.
It leaves us with this feeling of unease.
It feels like a threat more than a promise.
Right.
It suggests that this story isn't over yet,
Right.
and this cycle of violence might just be getting started.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder what they think protection is.
It's a chilling thought, and it makes me think that escaping that witch's cottage was just the beginning of a much bigger story.
Absolutely.
A story that we're left to imagine.
Yes. It's like the author's leaving us these little clues, like hints of a much bigger story.
Yeah.
This whole tapestry of darkness and resilience.
Right. And those final lines,
Oh, yeah.
they really stick with you.
They do.
You're left with so many questions.
So many.
Like, what happens to these sisters?
Right.
What does this revenge actually mean for them?
Yeah.
And what about the other characters in this whole twisted fairy tale? The father and the stepmother. They aren't just like one-dimensional villains, are they?
Not at all. They're much more complex than that.
Right.
And unfortunately, much more common.
Right.
The father, for example.
Yeah.
He's really interesting. He's complicit in all of this.
Right.
He knows about the abuse.
Yeah.
Maybe he even takes part in it sometimes. But in the end, he just acts helpless.
He tries to shift the blame, too.
Oh, totally.
Saying, they ran off with a witch.
Yeah.
It's like he's trying to pretend he had nothing to do with it.
Right.
It's infuriating.
It is.
And sadly, it's something we see all the time in real life.
All the time. He represents a certain type of authority figure.
Right.
Someone who abuses their power but then claims to be the victim.
Yeah, and the stepmother?
Oh, she's a master manipulator.
All right.
That fake illness.
Uh-huh.
The way she uses those pet names like darling.
Right.
But they're like weapons.
Yeah.
It's chilling.
It is, and she just accepts the stolen treasure.
Yeah.
Like, she has no remorse for what she put the girls through at all.
None.
It really shows how entitled she feels. Like, she deserves everything no matter what she does.
Exactly. Does this sound familiar at all to you?
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever met people like this?
Absolutely.
Maybe not as extreme, but with those same kinds of traits.
Yep.
I think we all have in some way. That's what makes this story so interesting. It connects with these universal experiences.
Right.
These uncomfortable truths about people.
Yeah.
And while what they do is horrible,
Yeah.
there's a certain satisfaction, a sense of justice when you see them become victims of the sister's plan.
It's like the author's giving us a peek into this dark side of power.
Oh, yeah.
Both in families and in society.
Absolutely.
We're forced to face these uncomfortable realities, to look at how we're involved, even passively, in keeping these systems going.
And the story doesn't shy away from the consequences.
No, it doesn't.
The sisters get their revenge.
Right.
But it comes at a price.
Yeah.
They've crossed the line. They've embraced this darkness.
Right.
And it will probably have lasting effects.
Yeah.
Remember that chilling coldness we talked about?
Right.
It doesn't go away.
It lingers.
It does.
Yeah, it's like they've traded one kind of prison for another.
Yes.
They may have escaped that witch's cottage, but now they're trapped in a psychological prison that they created themselves.
And the excerpt ends before we see how this internal conflict will play out.
Right.
Will they give in to the darkness?
Yeah.
Or will they find a way to heal?
Right.
To break free from this cycle of violence?
Right.
These are questions the author leaves us to think about.
And it's those unanswered questions, those lingering doubts that make this excerpt so powerful.
Yeah.
It's not a neat story with a clear ending.
Nope.
It's messy and complicated. It explores trauma and revenge and that blurry line between justice and something much darker.
It really is a story that stays with you.
It does.
It makes you think about your own values, your own capacity for darkness.
Right.
And that's what makes great storytelling.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, is there any way these sisters can heal after everything they've been through? Or are they just changed forever by the trauma and the revenge?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
This excerpt doesn't really give us the answers.
Right.
But there are some clues.
Okay.
Remember how the sister who poisons them?
Yeah.
She was described as having a soft heart.
Right. Right.
That to me suggests she still has empathy.
Yeah.
She still has the capacity for love.
Okay.
Even with all this darkness around her.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's still some light in her?
I think so.
A little spark of humanity that hasn't been totally snuffed out?
Right.
Do you think that could be their way to healing? Or is the darkness just too much?
I don't know if I can say for sure.
Right.
But I do think there's always hope.
Okay.
Even in the worst situations.
Yeah.
Their journey back from this. Their path to healing.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough.
All right.
Full of challenges.
Yeah, they crossed a line.
There's no going back.
No.
But the fact that she still wants to protect her sister,
Right.
even if it's in this twisted way,
Yeah.
it shows that love and connection
Right.
are still powerful forces in their lives.
It's like love is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Their shared trauma has bound them together.
Right.
But it's created this loyalty that can protect, but also destroy.
Right. They've only had each other to rely on.
Right.
To survive the witch's cottage and their own home.
Exactly. That bond must be so strong.
Incredibly strong.
They've formed their own family, one built on hardship and sealed with revenge.
So the question is, can they use that bond to rebuild, to find a way forward that doesn't involve more violence?
That's the question. Their future is uncertain, but their story shows us how resilient people can be, even when faced with such darkness.
This deep dive has really given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
What about you?
What really stands out to you from this twisted fairy tale?
For me, it's the fact that there's still hope.
Okay.
Even with all the violence and the betrayal and that coldness, there's still a glimmer of something more.
Right.
Like redemption might still be possible.
Okay.
It reminds us that even the most broken people can find their way back.
Right.
If they're willing to fight for it.
It's like a challenge to us, isn't it?
I think so.
To look past the darkness and see the potential for healing.
Absolutely.
Both for the characters and for ourselves.
Right.
We've all experienced betrayal and pain and injustice.
Yeah.
The question is, how do we respond?
Right.
Do we let the darkness win?
Yeah.
Or do we try to find something better?
That's a good question.
I think on that note, we'll leave you with those questions to think about.
Good questions.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into pasted text.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring.
Yes.
Keep questioning.
Definitely.
And remember, even in the darkest stories, there's always a glimmer of hope.